Hey, hello chess lovers, and welcome back to Chessway. And today we have an absolutely wild game. Played between Vasily Malinin and Konstantin Andreev, this game was played back in 1989. All right, the game begins with d4 and knight to f6. Then c4 and c5. This is the Benoni, the Benko gambit. Malinin refuses the gambit and pushes pawn to d5. Andreev says, okay, here is another free pawn, and plays pawn to b5. And this time, white accepts it. Pawn takes b5. Black plays aggressively again with pawn to a6, offering another pawn. It is very clear black wants wild counterplay on the queen side. Malinin accepts again, and black recaptures with the bishop. All right, so black is now down 2 pawns in the opening, but gets compensation with an open kingside and very fast development. The game continues knight to c3, pawn to d6, building a solid center. Then knight to f3. Leningrad goes pawn to g6, white mirrors the plan with pawn to g3, and of course, black goes bishop to g7. But instead of bishop to g2, white plays pawn to h4. Wow! Preparing an attack on the king side. Black still castles short. Now Malinin decides to sacrifice a pawn with pawn to h5. Okay, knight takes the pawn on h5. And next move, boom, rook takes the knight. After giving a pawn, now white gives the exchange. Pawn takes the rook, and now both the white king side and the black queen side are completely open. This is going to be total chaos. Game continues queen to c2, knight to d7. Bishop to g5, pinning the pawn onto the queen and opening the way for the rook. Black responds knight to f6. Bishop to g2, rook to b8, with the idea of knight takes d5. All right, let us imagine a random move like pawn to a3. Then knight takes d5. If knight takes knight, the white structure collapses, and then boom, rook takes b2. Queen to f5 if white wants to survive, but rook takes e2 check, king to d1, black can play queen to a5, or bishop takes rook, and white basically has no king safety. Okay, back to the real game. Here, Malinin plays long castle. Black responds queen to a5. White plays rook to h1. Here, Andreev takes the pawn on d5 with the knight first, sacrificing it. Malinin accepts and takes with the knight. The pawn on d2 is attacked twice. Rook takes pawn, attacking the queen. White's position looks dangerous. Black has powerful pressure. Because if the queen moves, then the rook from f goes to b8, and white will get destroyed. But Malinin finds something absolutely brilliant. First, knight takes e7 check. The king is forced to h8. Second move, queen takes pawn on h7 check, sacrificing the queen. The king must take the queen. Then boom, rook takes h5 check. Black blocks with the bishop. Rook takes the bishop check. The king is forced to g7. Knight to f5 check. The king must go to g8. And bishop to f6, not attacking the rook, but protecting the queen's diagonal, and more importantly, creating the threat of rook to h8 checkmate. Absolutely brilliant. But does black resign? Not yet. Black plays rook to c2 check, sacrificing the rook. King takes the rook, queen takes pawn on a2 check. The king has 3 choices, d1, c1, or c3. But believe it or not, all 3 lead to a forced draw. Luckily, Malinin knows this trap. He blocks the check with the bishop. Queen to c4 check, white blocks again. Here, queen takes e2 is strong, but after king to c1, black has no more checks. So, Andreev tries pawn to f6, finally dealing with the checkmate threat. A brilliant defensive idea, giving black some breathing room. But Malinin is not done. He plays knight to g5, sacrificing his knight. The idea is bishop to d5 check, then queen takes the bishop, then knight e7 is still check. Let us analyze. If pawn takes the knight, rook to h8 check. King must go to f7. Knight takes d6 check. King to e6. Knight takes the queen. Rook takes rook, bishop takes rook, and bishop takes knight. White has one pawn and one bishop as extra material in the endgame. Huge advantage. Okay, back to the actual board. Here, Andreev plays rook to e8 guarding the e7 square. But this is a blunder. And now, White has a forced checkmate in 5 moves. You can pause the video if you want to try this. This is a beautiful puzzle. All right, here we go. First, bishop to d5 check. 2 choices. If king goes to f8, then rook to h8 is checkmate. So the queen must take the bishop. What is the purpose of this bishop sacrifice? The only purpose is to remove the pin on the dark squared bishop. Okay, let us continue. Malinin plays rook to h8 check, sacrificing the rook. The king must take the rook. Now, the bishop is unpinned. Bishop takes f6 check. The king is forced back. Knight to h6 check. The king is forced to f8. And Malinin ends the game with knight to h7 checkmate. A beautiful checkmate to finish an absolute masterpiece by both players. Chess into pure art, and art like this will be remembered forever. The winner of this incredible game is Vasily Malinin. Did you find the 5-move checkmate puzzle? You can write your answer in the comments. All right, guys, that is it for this video. If you enjoy crazy chess games like this, make sure to click like and subscribe so I can stay motivated creating more awesome chess content. If I made any mistakes, I truly apologize. Thank you, chess lovers.